Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that $50 billion of your fortune is suddenly gone. You didn't spend it. You didn't lose it in a bad deal. You didn't even sell a single share. The market simply changed. For Larry Page, that isn't a crazy scenario. His fortune is deeply connected to the value of Alphabet, the company behind Google. And if artificial intelligence changes the way billions of people search for information, if Google's dominance begins to weaken, or if investors suddenly lose confidence in Alphabet, Larry Page could see tens of billions of dollars erased from his estimated fortune. But here's the bigger question. What would have to happen for one of America's richest technology billionaires to actually face a historic collapse in wealth? And the answer may have less to do with Larry Page, and much more to do with the future of Google. Larry Page co-founded Google with Sergey Brin in 1998. Their goal was simple: organize the world's information. That idea became one of the most successful technology businesses in history. Google search became a central part of the internet. Then came advertising, YouTube, Android, cloud computing, and many other businesses under Alphabet. Page eventually stepped away from the CEO role, but he remained an important shareholder. And that matters, because when Alphabet stock rises, the value of Page's holdings can rise dramatically. But the reverse is also true. When the stock falls, his estimated fortune can fall just as quickly. Forbes has previously recorded Page's wealth above $300 billion during major Alphabet stock gains. So the biggest threat to his fortune may not be something happening inside his personal life. It could come from the market. For decades, Google search has been one of the most powerful businesses on the internet. But technology is changing. Artificial intelligence is changing how people find information. Instead of typing a question into a search engine and opening several websites, users can increasingly ask an AI system for a direct answer. If that behavior becomes widespread, traditional search could face pressure. And that could matter enormously for Alphabet, because search advertising remains one of the company's most important businesses. If users spend less time with traditional search, advertisers could eventually change where they spend their money. And even a modest change in a business this large could have a major effect on Alphabet's valuation. Here's where the numbers become interesting. Larry Page does not need to sell anything to see his paper fortune fall. Imagine Alphabet's stock loses 20%. Then imagine it loses 30%. If Page's wealth is heavily connected to Alphabet shares, the decline in the company's market value could translate into a huge decline in his estimated net worth. This doesn't mean Page suddenly becomes poor. Far from it. But when your fortune is measured in hundreds of billions of dollars, a relatively small percentage move can represent tens of billions in paper wealth. That's the strange reality of billionaire wealth. The number can change dramatically while the person doesn't change their lifestyle at all. Artificial intelligence may be one of Alphabet's biggest opportunities, but it could also become one of its biggest challenges. Google has enormous AI resources, but the technology industry is moving incredibly fast. New competitors can emerge. Existing competitors can gain market share, and consumer habits can change faster than expected. If Alphabet fails to keep pace with the AI revolution, investors could begin questioning the company's future growth. And when investors change their expectations, stock valuations can change quickly. For Larry Page, that could have enormous consequences. There is another factor that could put pressure on Alphabet: government regulation. Google operates at a massive scale. Its search engine, advertising business, app ecosystem, and other services have attracted significant regulatory attention over the years. If governments impose major restrictions on how Alphabet operates, the company's future earnings could be affected. And once again, that could flow directly into the stock price. For an investor with enormous exposure to Alphabet, regulation isn't just a legal issue. It can also become a financial issue. Could Larry Page lose a massive amount of wealth? Absolutely. Could his net worth fall by tens of billions of dollars during a major market downturn? That's possible. But completely going broke is a very different scenario. Page has accumulated enormous wealth over decades. His assets aren't simply one pile of cash sitting in a bank account. They include investments and ownership interests whose values can rise and fall. So the more realistic scenario isn't Larry Page suddenly losing everything. It's something much more subtle. His fortune could shrink dramatically on paper if Alphabet's value falls, or if investors lose confidence in its future. And history shows that even the world's most successful companies can face periods of uncertainty. The real question isn't, can Larry Page lose his billions? It's this: can Google remain as dominant in the next 20 years as it was during the last 20? That's the challenge. Larry Page helped build one of the most influential technology companies in modern history. But technology never stands still. Search changed the internet. Then smartphones changed search. Now artificial intelligence may be changing both. Because for Larry Page, the future of his fortune is closely connected to the future of one of America's most powerful technology companies. And that's why the next chapter of Google's story could be just as important as the one that made Larry Page a billionaire in the first place. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice or predict future investment performance.